Okay, hello everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us for Spirit Talk for Libra season. Um, we meet here for the first Friday of every month to explore the energies and questions that are coming up for the collective. Here with me today are Reverend Ginny Brown and Scout Bartlett, and they do the psychic stuff, and I'm your host, Christopher Mitchell, and I do the astrology stuff. I'll be putting links to everyone's web pages in the chat box, as well as a link to donate if you would like to support the program. And you can go ahead and drop any questions that you might have for us in the chat box as well. And I will read them off and feed them to Ginny and Scout, and we'll toss them around together and play with them. So just to start us off here, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the astrology that's going on. And honestly, I could sit here and take up the whole hour breaking down the astrology of October 2020 because there's so much happening. It's kind of a crunch point in the collective. Kind of makes sense if you're here in the US leading up to the election. It's a very important and intense month with lots of things going on, pressure building and kind of agitation in the collective. But I think an important thing to note is that it is looking better and optimistic heading in, easier at least, heading into December and January. There's going to be some big shifts that lighten up the pressure and make things easier and more forward looking. But for working with the energy of October, I want to leave you all with something that you can use in a practical and helpful way and get your head around. And something that you're likely to encounter is talk about Mercury retrograde. Because Mercury, which is the planet of communication and thoughts and logic, Mercury is going to be going retrograde this month on October 13th, and it's going to end its retrograde on November 3rd. It's already in its ramp up right now. It's going to go retrograde and then it's going to ramp down. So we're already feeling it a little bit. And what Mercury retrograde is, there's a lot of people out there who get superstitious about it and make it into this big bad thing, but I want to give it to you in a practical way, and that is that it's Mercury, the planet of communication, kind of slowing down and getting louder so that we have it amped up in our life experience. It's actually an opportunity. I like to call them upgrades instead of retrograde, because what happens is all of the Mercury stuff, thought, communication, information management, gets kind of haywire and loud in our experience so that we have a chance to work with it and upgrade it. So this can look like things going not according to plan or things going a little screwy, but it's really an invitation to be present and flexible, to say like, oh, my tire went flat on the highway. How am I going to react to that? Or, oh, this communication with my family is not going the way it usually does. How am I going to respond to that? It's our communication doesn't work the way it usually does, and that's not a bad thing because it's an opportunity for us to be present and to work with it in new ways. And I think if you can approach it in that way and look at it as an invitation to be flexible and present and use your communication mindfully, you'll actually find that this time brings a lot of healing and improvement to the way that you interact with the world. The time people get frustrated with it when they try to push ahead the way they usually do. So if you can stay present and flexible, Mercury retrograde is not a problem. So I'll just leave you with that, and then we'll go ahead and turn the energy over to Ginny and Scout. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk for the first half. We're going to ask questions about what's going on in the world. And then for the second half, we're going to ask questions about relationships and relationship dynamics. So I'll give it to Scout first. Scout, there's a lot of stuff going on. Libra season relates to justice and fairness and harmony and balance. And there's a lot of stuff coming up in the collective around issues around justice and harmony and peacefulness, with all the splits that are happening and all the stuff that's happening in the current events leading up to the election and everything here in the US. Can you give us your spiritual perspective on what's going on in the world and maybe how it relates into these Libra themes of justice and fairness and equality?
There's an interesting place, Chris, where every year around solstice in December, for a lot of years now, I kind of lost track, I've done what we call our holy days message. It's I go into a deep trance state and give my body over. Don't try this at home. I do not recommend you try this at home. It took me years to develop the frequencies to be able to identify what I was doing. But I go into a deep trance state and allow in members of my highest guidance to talk about life on Earth and where we're headed and what's that bigger, broader, deeper perspective from higher levels. And they've been talking about us entering into a transitionary period. They make an analogy, and the numbers are not important. They've made that really clear, but they make an analogy that we're in the midst of transforming this dimension of reality that we think of as Earth from being the frequencies of a third grade classroom to being the frequencies of a fourth grade classroom. And they've given a lot of information about stuff that we would see going on. The sweetest of it that I like is that the time delay between thought and thing is getting less of a delay, or it's been faster between what it is that you let run in the back of your mind over and over and what it is that you see in your world. So the magnetic attractions and the law of magnetism is increasing in its speed because reality is increasing in its frequency. And I always like to reinforce the fact that we're not talking about that one thing that floated through the front of your mind. We're talking about the things that you let be out of control, repeating over and 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 over in the back of your mind. If you want to test that, have a conversation with a friend that just either got shafted by the place they work or they had a bad breakup with their partner. And you'll find out that any topic you bring up suddenly dives over into the loop they've got going on in the back of their mind of they never should have done this and they never should have done. And there you are again. You get to hear their tape. So it's a time to be alert to your own deep conscious, subconscious, unconscious tapes. And to recognize and interrupt those so that if you thought of them as being little loops where some of your life force marbles get stuck going around and around and around, you've lost your marbles into these loops and you want to give them out paths so that you can get your marbles back. Among the things they talked about was that it would get harder and harder to hide deception. So you'll watch that some of the higher level celebrities in the political field are being stunned to find out that people are upset that they're doing certain things. And if you watch them really close, it's kind of like they're being as careful as they can to avoid saying, but this is what we've always done. How come you're upset about it now? Where the public is thinking, but this is the first time we found out you're doing that. We don't know it's old. We think it's new. They mentioned that we would see a tremendous amount of polarity, which we're really watching. I cannot imagine a moment in my lifetime memories on Earth of this level of polarity of you're either us or you're them, and there's no middle ground allowed. I'm taking all of this information to be remarkably useful in that it doesn't change that there's crazy out there, but it does put it in the same category of when I was a kid and I skinned my knee and then, cleaned it up and bandaged it up. And I got taught to make sure you get all the dirt out of it. Then it's all bandaged up with antiseptic, but then it would itch. And I remember it being tremendously helpful that my mom was there to say, itching, that means it's healing. It's on track, as opposed to, oh my God, alien bugs have gotten in and they're going to eat my knee. It's itching. That means it's healing. So I can tell you that we're lining up a lot. And in the radio show, Life Insights Live, I've been talking about this, but we're lining up a lot with all of the symptoms, for lack of a better word, with all of the events and all of the format that guidance had talked about as being the symptoms of us as a species elevating the frequency of this reality. We're lining up all of this craziness is exactly what we would expect coming into this transition. So guidance basically says, yep, your whole reality itches right at the moment, and that means it's healing. Try to work with that, Ginny.
Well, I think it's pretty spot on for where we're at. It's a time of transition. And, when I think of themes of justice, I don't believe that mankind is we're not meant to be judge and juror of each other. We're not neutral enough. The programming that we receive from the moment we're born starts to dictate how we see the world. And that's going to be controlled by the race of people, the culture of people, you know, how we were raised, our family beliefs. And so it's very hard for us to be the judge and juror of each other. And from where I sit, justice isn't about revenge or being vengeful and saying like this person needs to pay for what they've done. Instead, the lesson around justice for us as mankind is to look at how can I be just? How can I act from a place of being just? And to me, that means to be morally and ethically coming from love and finding rightness in your own action. There's a beautiful lesson in the Course of Miracles where they say, you would never accuse you of that. And I think that that's a very beautiful way to look at your brother. When we look at someone else in a myopic way and we start to kind of pigeonhole them into how we see them, we're letting go, we're kind of limiting their humanity. We're limiting who they can be. And that takes us out of a relationship that's harmonious with the rest of mankind, who is a reflection of you. And so harmony to me is about finding the way that all the instruments work. You think about a symphony, you know, you're not going to say, well, the drums don't belong here. They're too loud. They're too this, you know, they're important. Same as the horns, same as the string instruments. And what harmony is when everything is working together. And that doesn't mean the same. The drums aren't going to act like a piano. They can't. They're going to keep the beat. They're going to do their job. So when you think of people out there on the front lines, or you think about people in office or in just these different roles, the healers, the teachers, the communicators, you know, the complainers, everyone has a function in mankind. Everyone has a job, and what we're meant to be doing is fighting this polarity and this way of us versus them, and finding a way towards the middle ground and into a place of harmony, of saying, yeah, that drum, that loud kick beat is a part of the song of me. It's the part of our global rhythm, and I want it there. And so when we're looking at these themes and just kind of like what's been coming up in our country and our culture around this, it is our opportunity to hold to what is really true. And I love the image of Athena, who is the ruler of Venus and the ruler of Libra. You know, she was blind. Like she wore, you know, she was blinded. She wore a handkerchief over her eyes, and the scales there were to help find justice. We cannot like look at situations with this myopic point of view and find a place of justice. We have to back up. We have to get to know all sides. And until we do that, until we're willing to see those things, our world will not be harmonious. And so the people that create discomfort in your world, the people that you despise, the groups that you despise, the courageous thing is to get to know them. And that was one of the wisest, some of the greatest mystics and politicians of our time have lived and died by that truth, such as Abe Lincoln. So if we want to find places of like making big shifts around the things that we think are wrong in this world, we have to be willing to act for it. Chris, I'll hand it back to you.
I'm going to jump in real quick because I love that. Finding that middle ground, one of the pieces that I've been finding for myself, if I were getting ready for a particular sport, you know, if I had some sport in mind and I was getting ready to participate in that sport, I might go to the gym and exercise the muscles involved in that sport, even though the equipment in the gym doesn't look anything like a tennis racket or a whatever, you know, rugby ball. But I might go specifically exercise the muscles that have to do with it to get ready for it. And what I've been observing is that the hugest single piece that keeps showing up is, well, two parts that I've been living by. And one of them is exactly what Ginny was saying. It's just key to me to always remember that in any polarity, both sides think they're the good guy. Hugely easier to navigate if I can remember that whatever their thought process is that has them seeing things differently than how I see them, both of us think that we have the appropriate, right, and useful position. It's not that the person in the other thought process is wishing to be some cartoon evil character and create evilness. They think they're the good guy too. Obviously, they're wrong if they're disagreeing with me, but there's a real key place of remembering to come back and re-find our own center. Come back to our center, whether we're interrupting our mind chatter about how wrong they are, whether we're interrupting our mind chatter about how they shouldn't have done that, whether we're interrupting our mind chatter about what we should or shouldn't have done, or our mind chatter about what we should or shouldn't have said, or our mind chatter about whether or not we ever do get to have any power, or anybody ever listens to us, or anybody ever hears us, blah-de-blah, blah-de-blah. Uh-oh, I think I may have just exposed myself. But, hopefully I'm not the only neurotic in the room, but it's coming back, it's interrupting that mind chatter and coming back to your center, interrupting that mind chatter and coming back to your center. I work from a practice of meditation, and I find it really key to make sure that I use a meditation to refamiliarize myself with my center so that I'm never more than 24 hours away from the last time I remembered on purpose what my center is. So that if I'm interrupting my thought process to come back to my center, it's a fairly recent place I've visited, rather than having gotten lost in the mind chatter. And the mind chatter is just these loops that go around that grab up marbles. It's my fun thought lately. It grabs up marbles of the Sufis refer to it as our attention, our life force, units of our life force. And they just end up stuck in these loops, portions of our life force end up stuck in these loops until we create, oops. Put your hands on camera, Scout. They get stuck in these loops until we create an out path by having interrupted the loop and shifted to a different thought process. Even though it's the world, even though it's everybody, even though it's crazy celebrities and people that got to be celebrities through performance and people that got to be celebrities through great political campaigns or people that got to be celebrities through accumulating masses of wealth, even though it's the world, and even though it's an inundation of the big voices in the world till we feel like we're a little tiny small voice in the world, one candle in a huge church can give enough light to find your way through the church. Well, that was a good place to stop. I'll pretend that I had sense enough to just stop right there. One candle can give enough light to navigate and to remind other candles that they're candles too. Oh, now I'm just getting like, that's getting cheesy. But you get it. Come back to your center.
I'll rescue you, Scout.
Thank you.
For sure. So I'm hearing this, and I'm thinking about this polarization that we're talking about, and also Ginny's invitation to try and understand those people on the other side. And I mean, just to take a very strong example, we see the polarization in the country right now around racism. And from a lot of our perspectives, a more liberal one, it seems like the clear answer is like equality for all people, like inclusivity. And I can have compassion for someone out in wherever they are feeling perhaps disenfranchised, and in their mind it's more about like men's rights or keeping their way of life together. But it seems from my perspective, and I know that there could be a blind spot here, it seems from my perspective that the right thing is the inclusivity, is the equality, is the opening our heart to one another, not segregation and prejudice. So when we find ourselves in those kind of mental spots where it seems so much like, of course, LGBT rights are the right thing, like, of course, peace and like environmental protection is the right thing. How can we open our hearts to the other side? And how can this polarity start to be bridged? How can we start to see each other? I'll pass that over to you, Ginny.
It's my favorite topic. Anytime we can move into polarity, it's just my happy place. Equality.
All right, that actually sounded weird.
Is it?
Anytime we can move into polarity, that's my happy place. No, I knew what you meant. Sorry, I'm just teasing.
Well, yeah. I like discomfort. Is that weird? I mean,
Oh, now I get it.
yeah.
There's a word for that, actually.
And Chris, please.
Is it, well, is it this?
Other than the word crazy? Oh, no, I think the word there is ambitiously growing.
Yeah, that's the
And I
spiritual
totally
take
agree
on
with
it.
that. You know, too smooth is not good. Face to face with, uh-oh, I've got stuff to change here is growth personified.
Yeah, but there's value in this joke that we're making because it is, you learn to have a relationship with the discomfort and you start to realize that it's where all the, what is it? I think it was it Young or was it the Joseph Campbell who said that in our darkest cave lies our greatest treasure, you know?
Mhm.
Back to Ginny.
One feeds the other there. But yeah, equality is what we're all working towards. And so in order to get there, we have to face the places of separation. We have to face the places of racism. We have to face the places of discomfort within ourselves and within our country. You know, America isn't just an incredible place. I love our country. And it's an experiment. You know, you look at the freedoms that we have here, and the way this was designed was to create utopia. Look at our, you know, Constitution. Look at the Bill of Rights. Like, what was set up there was an opportunity for us to work through these things. It says, you know, all people are created equal. Boom. Did we come in with slaves? Did we come in with these other ideas? It was like, yes, but not this group. Well, yeah, America is the place where we're working that out. There is no other country on the planet. A lot of countries are actually kind of moving toward more of this mixed race, mixed religion, mixed situation. Like that's happening more and more. But, you know, America was founded that way. And so here we are bringing in all these different religions, all these different races, and we're in a melting pot where we're forced to work these things out. And so naturally, you know, our belief systems, wherever they sit, are going to be polarized from that of our neighbor. And the opportunity here is to work towards the you know, I talk about mock-ups, towards the mock-up of our country, which is to find equality and to find democracy and to find like a place of balance and enlightenment here. Like, it was no mistake. And it's no mistake why you're here. You know, and it's not that this side is right and this side is wrong. It's just that people are carrying belief systems that are old. The way a soul reincarnates here is there's a rhythm to it. It's about 150 years, give or take. And so the people that are incarnating now were slave owners at one point. So yeah, they come in with this idea that this is okay, and they're working that out in this current state of being. And so we're here to evolve. And this evolution leads us to looking at and understanding ourselves through the lens of our country, through the lens of each other, and through the lens of ourselves. And so when I look at equality and I say, that feels like love to me, to treat everyone the same, for everyone to have the same rights, regardless of color, creed, you know, religion, gender, sexuality. Yes, that's what I want to work towards. That's what I want to work towards in my life. It doesn't mean that it's right. When you go into right, this is what's right, then you're taking a stance that's limited. You're limiting your vision. Okay, so it's important in this process of like, when you feel like that feels like love to me, to offer this to my brother, to offer this to the world, to create this in the way that I live my life and in the country I live in. You have to go out and you have to engage with people who feel the opposite. It's not about like, the way I see the world is the only way it's going to be, because that's not true. And the only way people evolve is through experience. You can preach to someone all day long about what you believe to be right, but it's actually like having an experience that evolves us forward. And so that, you know, if someone hasn't had that experience yet, be gentle with them. Be gentle with them, love them through it. It's not that they're wrong. You know, they're working through what's coming up for them, and seeing that they feel more in power when, you know, there's reasons for why people see the world the way they do. And equality is often an issue, whether that shows up in really dark things like slavery or rape, or, you know, just any kind of like enslavements. Like there's ways that power struggles show the worst of us. So don't get into one in a conversation with people about what's right and what's wrong. That's power. That's a power struggle. And so in that moment, are you trying to enslave them to your way of thinking? Are you forcing your ideas or yourself onto another? And it's that level of accountability and responsibility that brings about enlightenment. And to be enlightened is just to go, aha, this is where I'm a part of the problem. When I wrestle with, you know, like a family member about what's right and what's wrong, they have a different, you know, they see a politician as a hero and I see them as a villain. We get into this power struggle. I'm trying to force my belief system onto them. How is it different? How is it different? And so I encourage everyone just to, instead of like trying to force your opinion onto someone, is just to sit back and listen, to inquire. That's how we come to a place of understanding. If you really sit with someone who has an opposite point of view of you, it's not that you're going to become hypnotized by the way that they see the world, but you'll come to understand why they see it that way. And that's harmony. Scout?
Everybody thinks they're the good guy. I heard that in an interview I did, I don't know, several years ago, and it's been a piece of my meditation since. I've been embarrassed to admit that I was living inside an intense level of bigotry, in that I was bigoted against bigots, people that were judgmental of other human styles, to where I had a picture in my head of what they were and who they were, which included bad education, low intelligence, and really bad dental work. But that was my picture. And so it's been spectacular to have a period of time to have to crack out of my own filtered picture and recognize that, no, lots of people that have these opinions other than mine are highly educated, or they live in really, really nice houses. They can afford spectacularly expensive weapons. Wait, that was off track. But that it's not the picture I had, and that I have to break out of my image that, well, they could only have this microscopic thought view if they had this microscopic brain. And it's like, no, it's really hard to listen. I do another program where I am the interviewer, and it's not my, you know, it's the interviewee is featured. And so I've had to learn a lot about being the interviewer, and I've noticed that I actually have to tell people that are going to be on the program that different than other media that they'll be on, I'll actually be listening to them. Because I've watched a lot, and I've noticed that one of the hardest things for interviewers to do is listen to the person they're interviewing. And these are professionals. But you can watch them, you know, they're sort of like waiting for the noise to stop so that they can go, and my next question, and they're looking at their list, you know, and the next question has nothing to do with whatever the subject necessarily, you know, not every one of them, but frequently. And so from that, I've carried that out into the world, that what an incredible place it is to break out of our own thought chatter about how we want to present and how we want to own and what we want to be in charge of, and be instead listening to hear. Now, I noticed I just looked at the clock, so I know Chris was about to bust me. At the half hour, we like to break away and do a short meditation with y'all. Today, I'm going to take you through what we call the live beam, Life Insights, my work, vertical energy beam meditation. We'll do it for about 2 minutes and 45 seconds, so you'll be able to stay with it. We're going to teach it to you. It is a mindful meditation, which is not to say mindfulness, which is a copywritten word. It's a mindful meditation, which is a style. So I'll just invite you all to go ahead and let your eyes go closed. And just draw in a long, deep breath till your lungs are full and let that air flow out again. And as you're ready for another breath, let it be a long, deep breath. And this time, imagine that air flowing out through your body, as if your body were layers of silk or fabric. And with each breath, let the air flow in and let it flow out through your body, feeling your body open and expand. And in your imagination, I'd like you to imagine reaching down to the center of this planet Earth, as if it's just a dimensionality, reaching down to the center of this planet Earth and stirring a warm, rich, dense energy there in the center of the planet. Curl that imaginary hand into a cup and use that cupped hand now to pull a streamer of energy from the center of the Earth right up through the earth beneath you, up and into your body, right at your tailbone. There's an energy center there. It's your first chakra, associated color red. And let yourself pause for a moment to really focus. Bring your thoughts back to my words. And let yourself pause to really focus into this energy beam connected from the center of the earth, right up through and into your body, just in front of your tailbone. Feel that matching warmth, that matching solidness, that matching energy. And relax into it, bringing your focus back to my words. Relax into that sense of connection from the center of the earth, right into your body, just in front of your tailbone, your first chakra. And now stretch that energetic beam from the center of the earth to draw it up into your low abdomen, second chakra, associated color orange. Drawing it up into your upper abdomen, Dantian energy reservoir. Drawing it up to your solar plexus, the bottom of your breastbone. Deep inside your body, just in front of your spine, bringing it into your solar plexus, third chakra, yellow. Drawing it past that up to the middle of your chest, heart level, deep inside your body, just in front of your spine, connecting it into that energy center at heart level, associated green. Let that warm and expand. Pause for a moment to let yourself feel yourself connected. Center of earth, warm, rich, dense energy into body at tailbone, moving right up through your body, just in front of your spine to warm and soften and fill back in the energy center that is your center of emotion, beauty, joy, love, delight, connection. Let it fill that back in, all the places where you've either constricted it out of wounding or that it's gotten dented. Just fill it in and let that whole heart area expand. It's okay right at the moment for you to be immersed in love in the midst of this group of us talking about connecting. And now that beam of energy from the center of the earth that enters your body at tailbone, that's flowing all the way up to heart level, stretch that beam now, drawing it up to the base of your throat, associated color blue, drawing it up to the middle of your head, indigo, to the top of your head, purple or violet, out the top of your head, all the way up and into a big energy cloud above your head that I'll just call source. And willfully cause a surge of energy up that beam, right up through your body, out the top of your head, creating a geyser or a fountain of energy into source, so that you are uplifting, transmuting physical level energy to source. And as you willfully increase or surge that energy, you may feel a pressure inside of you. Just relax against that pressure. And that stream of energy through the center of you, like the filament of a light bulb, will create a glow. Willfully increase the energy flow up that stream so that it expands that glow, letting your energy field glow out through you and out through everyone and everything around you. Floors, chairs, walls, ceilings, people, baby ducks, baby rhinos, Scout redeeming newspaper-worthy lotto winnings. Just let it glow through everything in your surroundings. And let yourself feel the amount of space that gives you. You allowing you, your energy field, regardless of surroundings. Many of you have compressed and shaped yourself to try and fit in your surroundings. Let your energy glow out through you and out through everyone and everything around you. It's just energy passing through energy, each on its own frequency. There you go. And remembering this state so that you can come back to it at choice, remembering this center, this peaceful place so that you can come back to it at will. Go ahead now and give your body a big breath. And as you let it out, just let it bring your eyes back open and bring you right on back into the room. Welcome back. That glowing state allows you to have your energy field regardless of who else is around. It allows everyone around you to be transparent to that glow, but it also allows everyone around you to be included in that glow. And a whole lot of what we're doing here is the dance of separateness. And a whole lot of what the wounding is that's being danced out for healing is the wounding of isolated, different, wrong, not fitting, not belonging. Even if you look at the movies, I mean, look at the wars in, yeah, sure, hobbits. Look at the wars in the Lord of the Rings. There we go. Most of the army on the other side in the war in the Lord of the Rings are the critters that would be not accepted. The deplorables in that reality system, suddenly feeling like, oh my gosh, we're valid if we're among the other critters that are not accepted. So we're going to fight for acceptance among the critters that were not accepted. Yeah. Allowing our light to glow out through us and out through everyone and everything around us, whether at first it's the size of a chair or a room, or letting yourself build that. So it's not about pushing the light out, it's build the energy flow so that it naturally expands, the same way that a light bulb, you flow more electricity through to get a bigger glow. Allowing that light to glow out through you and through everyone and everything around you. Well, one, it's really fun. If you're any place where there's babies and they're throwing a tantrum, that much light is so distracting, they forget their tantrum and they just stare, which is kind of handy. But allowing that light to glow out, we're removing all of us that would have us collapse in and go separate. And we're bringing us into a state of everything's real, everything's true. I don't need separation. Nothing that's real can be injured or hurt. And the whole point of it is me being able to be in my expanded light in the midst of, unconditionally, whatever the heck is going on. Sorry, Chris, I ran over, but astrology time.
Actually, I'm going to talk about astrology a little bit, I think, at the very end, and get us started on some relationship questions to have fun with Libra season. And I'm going to pass this one right back to you, Scout. But so the question I've got, and I know there's a couple other people in the audience who are also curious about this, is with the energy of COVID kind of in our space right now, what is Spirit's intention around dating and romance and connection during these times? Are we supposed to kind of hang back and stay with ourselves and just trust that there's time for that later on? Or do we kind of go against the stream and try to make it happen for ourselves, even though there's quarantines and stuff happening? Like, if you're single and kind of longing for something beyond that right now, what would your advice be to us at this time?
Ah, sweet, thanks. This is a very careful dance, because this is the first time in my lifetime that I remember a virus being a politically active player. And at the same time, deeply enmeshed in politically right or wrong, depending upon whose viewpoint you are on the whole thing. So let me speak of this. We're in the midst of, and I want to speak to Louise's question as well, thanks. We're in the midst of this thing that I described as a transition from being energetically the frequency of numbers notwithstanding, it's not about the numbers, but being the frequency of a third grade classroom being elevated to the frequency of a fourth grade classroom. We are uplifting the entire reality system that we experience as Earth to a next notch up. And I hear lots of descriptions in the spiritual world of, the 27th dimension, the left elbow dimension, the third planet past Pluto, hang a left turn dimension, which tells me that they don't know what it is either, because we don't have any English for it, we don't have any words for it, and it's beyond comprehension. All right, maybe not the third planet past Pluto. But numbers notwithstanding, what we're in the midst of is, my guidance describes it this way: if you get enough crows hanging on and they're all flapping their wings, even if they're flapping in different directions, they can steal an elephant. we're in an amazing moment of time. Way back when the Exxon Valdez had that horrible oil tragedy, and we thought the world woke up to oil tragedies. That was a good thought. A lot of the world thought of that tragedy all at the same time. Whether they agreed with what they thought about the tragedy didn't matter. What mattered was there was a whole lot of the human population thinking about the same thing at the same time. Every time we have a unified thought with a whole lot of the population thinking about the same thing at the same time, whether they agree or not, it's a unification of an energy force, and it actually is a nudge upward in frequency. Now, I have to honestly say, I have to admit to the fact that I tend to assume that us spiritual junkies, us growth people, us people who are doing personal development, are the people ready to graduate into 4th grade, and that the people that aren't on that same path are the ones that were 2nd graders and they're coming into 3rd grade right before we do a remodel, and they'll have to do 3rd grade somewhere else because they're not ready for 4th grade. I could be wrong. It may be that the people who are so proud of their genetics are the ones that are right, and I'll find out that, oh yeah, dang, wasn't us. I just have to acknowledge that you got to take the whole picture into account rather than assuming that there is a right or a wrong. There only is a is. Yeah, that works. And so what's going on is we're elevating this whole reality system to a next notch up in frequency, which will have us psychically less distant from each other, psychically less distant from our physical reality, much closer to a sense of intuitive interaction, but a whole lot more unable to lose track of ourselves. One of the parts of this virus is the whole world. In fact, we've managed to have explorers haul it into tiny indigenous populations that have very little connection with the outside world, and either the lumber thieves or the explorers have brought it to them too. The whole world is on the same topic at the same time. They don't have to be agreeing, but all the crows are hanging onto the same elephant and flapping their wings. Oh, you guys didn't track that at all. Sorry, my brain picture. But the whole world is on the same topic at once, much more than an oil spill, much more than creating a sombrero for an oil well under the Gulf of Mexico. The whole world is on this topic, and recognizing either consciously or subconsciously that, holy crap, we really do only have one planet, and we really are all interconnected, and we really kind of like probably need to pay attention to that. It's part of uplifting. But the social isolation, I don't know if y'all have noticed, but when we drop off a lot of the distraction, what we end up with is self. Hi, I'd like to introduce you to you. I'd like you to hang out with you at summer camp for, oh, say 8 weeks. To get to know you a little bit. There'll be some outside entertainment, but mostly your project is you get to know you, including, as Christopher mentioned, you get to take a look at the part of you that really expected you would be completed through a partner. Not speaking of the part of you that really expected that you would have had happiness if you had a lover, but looking at the part of you that really expected that you would have been completed if you had a partner. That partnership drive. Right at the moment, there's a whole key part of what's going on. Come back to your center, come back to your light, light yourself up. There's a whole key part going on of recognizing that your ideal partner is you. And that in the future, rather than 1 + 1, it becomes 2 halves of 1 in a partnership, that what you'll want to do is 1 + 1 plus a relationship equals 3, not 1 + 1 = 1. That was fun. What are you going to do with that, Jenny?
Well, COVID has helped us focus on what's important to us. And it's helped us to focus, to kind of get out of some of the busyness of life, whether it's work slowing down, whether it's socializing slowing down, whether it's, just all the kind of distractions that have been up in our individual world and in our collective. And one big thing that I've noticed in working with people a lot around romance and connection and love as a theme, whether that's with themselves or with others, is, swipe culture. Swipe culture has completely desensitized us to romance, and it's really been a destroyer of intimacy. Is anytime, whether it was, a harem 20, like 2,000 years ago or whatever, just kind of like this flippant attitude towards sex and relationships and towards connection, and the karmic relationship that we have with sex, partnership, and those things. And so COVID has helped us slow down and actually to kind of return to courting, which I think is really beautiful, of like, well, we've got to kind of get to know each other first here. I've got to get to know you more. You've got to get to know me more before we can find out if we're going to take this next step. There's more caution, and caution is good. The youth right now has been very flippant about those things. It hasn't been a focus, especially with kind of the conquering of AIDS and some of these diseases that have come into our sphere, in this past century, to help us slow down, to help us say, hey, you're missing the point of what connection is all about. To me, intimacy is something that you get to share on all levels. Intimacy isn't just about physical connection, it's about emotional connection, and it's about spiritual connection. Whether you look at it that way or not, that's what's happening. And if we're very disconnected in sexual relationships or in relationships in general, we're not participating in all that's there for us. And all that's there for us is a really amazing experience in connection. And the more intimate the relationship, and this can be the relationship that you have with your animals or your children or your friends or your lover, they're all your lovers. The ones that you let into your heart space, the ones that you let close to you, they are your lovers and should be treated as you would want to be treated. And so to me, COVID and its effect on dating, it has been a good thing. It's really helped us to slow down and to not just be looking at, are we physically attracted, which is an important thing. I mean, I'm a Libra, so that's an important thing to me, but it's one of those things that has desensitized us to really knowing someone on a complete and full and deep level. And so I see it as an opportunity, to slow down and to get to know someone on a mental and emotional level before diving into steps that carry more risk.
There was a guy I did some study with, Ginny, and I just want to share this because I love it. I don't know if he made it up, but I'll reference Stan Dale. And in some of the work I did with Stan, one of the things that I took away that I meditate on is he took that word intimacy and made it into me, you see. And that became my byword of understanding intimacy. Intimacy is, can I drop my guard and let you see all the way into me? Even in these presentations, you get to see me goofy, you get to see me come out with just weird stuff that goes through my head. Into me, you see.
It's beautiful.
So in defense of Tinder for just a second here, I've actually been noticing that, because there are times when I've played around with it a lot over the last several months, and sometimes you get in this mindless swiping judgmental space, but having noticed that in myself, I actually have started to approach Tinder like a meta practice in the Buddhist sense, a loving kindness meditation. I like to joke to myself, you swipe left with love, and so there's a way of, and it's actually been a way that I've been able to open up against some of my unconscious prejudices, my unconscious biases. If I take the time to see each person that's in front of me, not through the filters of quick assumption and like unconscious right, left, but instead I sit with their energy and I try to feel into who they are. It opens something in me and gives me space to notice things about people that I've never noticed before. It opens my heart to humanity.
Well, the number one thing people really fear in intimacy is rejection. And I feel like that's a part of swipe culture, is the rejection, just a very just kind of casual rejection that we do of each other based on looks and on things that don't really matter about
Photographic skills.
right. So, I feel like I like that you swipe left out of love in a meta practice. But there is, like, if you notice a buildup of any sort of rejection in your space or a fear of rejection in your space, it might be worth getting on a platform that isn't swipe related, that isn't building up kind of this karmic bag of rejection for us to kind of like work through. So just a additional thought there.
Chris, I'm going to save you here. Gee, we have 7.5 minutes that you could do a quick summary of the astrology of the moment. Favor returned.
Okay, right on. And I'm sure there's lots of different angles to take on Tinder in this dimension. I appreciate it.
All right, I tried to save you, but you didn't take the lifesaver.
Oh, you were saving me from the Tinder thing. I get you now. Oh well. So.
Chris actually loves having his feet to the fire, so it's not a problem.
I have.
I think that's the theme of the day. If I can find those moments of discomfort.
There's something about me that really likes talking about those energies in public. I feel like it's cool to kind of bring them to the light. I think it's my Mars, which is the planet of desire and kind of impulsivity, on my midheaven, which is the space in our chart that represents our public image. So
nice transition. Well done.
So taking it over to the astrological place here, because I do want to get to Louise's question. And she asked about kind of how the current astrological energies relate to transforming energy, and also what we might have to look forward to in an optimistic way, amidst such heaviness and challenge. And so, and I can actually speak to that. There's some really great stuff to look forward to. And so what's happening right now, in essence, is that we're in the midst of the 2020 Saturn-Pluto conjunction. That means these two planets have come together and they're meeting up in the sky and merging their energies. Saturn is the planet of restriction and limitation and boundary. Pluto is the planet of shadow work and deep transformation, death, and rebirth. So we're going through a transformation through restriction and a period of healing and shadow work through being stuck with our deepest stuff. Yes, Scout.
Chris, one quick question.
Mm-hmm.
And it just rolled through my head and I'm just nosy. If one were in a passage of Saturn return during this period, is that going to sort of like double down their bet?
I've noticed there's actually several people in my space who have been going through that phenomenon where, like, it to me is like actually someone right in this call today is about to hit their Saturn return. And I kind of think of it as the last couple of years have been so Saturny that the Saturn return is likely to just be kind of par for the course, kind of like an extension of energy that we're already getting used to. Or you can also think of it as the Saturn-Pluto conjunction that's happening for us all is happening for us all, whereas a Saturn return, when it happens in your personal chart, is going to be about your personal evolution and your personal call towards growth and maturity. And in that way, it won't be softened because it'll still have something important to tell you, separate from what these energies are telling all of us. So all that said, this is an intense time where a lot of our shadow is being brought up so that we have a chance to be with it, love it, relate to it differently, transform it, and lighten it, individually and collectively. And the carrot dangling out in front of us, because it's really cool as an astrologer, I get to look ahead to 2024, 2027, and see some of the energies that are brewing on the horizon, kind of like a meteorologist gets to say that like sunny times are coming up ahead. And Saturn and Pluto both will be moving over the next couple of years out of Capricorn, which is a planet of grounded, practical, sometimes serious matters into Aquarius, which you know about the Aquarian age that everyone's saying that we're shifting into. It's an energy of forward-looking, progress, humanitarianism. And so major players are going to be moving into this lighter, more humanistic energy, shifting us from the problems with what is to where we might be able to go. And my favorite kind of bait out ahead of us that's giving me hope throughout all of my challenges is that there's going to be a beautiful trine, which is a harmonious aspect between Pluto, that transformation shadow work planet, and Uranus, which is the great liberator, innovator, genius energy. And this trine in around 2026 to 2029 is a time when so many innovations, so much societal progress, so many reforms and progressive integration of progressive ideas are possible, where things that we're dreaming of in this futuristic sense can kind of be made more solid and integrated into our reality. So I'm super hopeful about the second half of this decade. Even 2021, Saturn and Jupiter are both going to be in Aquarius, so we're going to be getting a taste of that energy. So, lots to look forward to. And with that, we're at time. So I'm going to drop links to Scout and Ginny's websites both in the chat box. You can hit them up for private sessions if you want to. And I'm also going to put another link to the donation if you'd like to support the program. And if you're watching this on YouTube later, there's probably a link to donate in the description of the YouTube video as well. And we're going to be back on November 6th for the Scorpio episode of Spirit Talk, which will be really cool. Scorpio energy is like sex, death, and magic, and psychic mysteries. That should be a draw. And so, Ginny and Scout, if you'd like to talk about anything you've got going on or coming up, and we'll wrap up.
So a few things coming up in my world. I'm going to be doing Scout and I belong to a group, or we're a part of a collective, and we're going to be doing a series of free events year round. But there's one coming up on October 7th, where they're going to be channeling dragons and some very interesting energy from the Akashic records about how to work and create balance in the world as we know it. And then a couple weeks later, on Saturday, October 17th, I'll be hosting one with Geraldine Orozco, who is a wonderful woman, does like deep DNA channeling work. And we're going to be working on fear, on how to release and work with fear in times like this. So I'm really excited about a lot of collaborations coming our way. And I'm going to be dropping some information on a very exciting program next week. I'm actually planning to send out an email or newsletter about that next week on my birthday, which is October 7th. Go Libras. So if you're not on my email list and are curious about the programs I'm going to be offering, feel free to sign up. I'd love to have you. Scout?
Thanks, Ginny. Oh, that's exciting. So we've got a workshop on your birthday. Fabulous. Way to celebrate.
Sure.
Just to give you all a balance, while my sun sign is not Libra, almost everything else in my chart is. So you sort of like, we're well balanced toward that end of the spectrum. I host a radio show that broadcasts in San Francisco every Monday and Wednesday at dark 100, 6 a.m. in the morning, but it also streams online and gets placed up into my website under radio archives. It's been recognized as the longest running major market personal growth radio program in the nation, which means I'm not 20, but we're pretty proud of that. And we've got, something like 100 episodes of it or more are up on the website available, no charge, go in. There's 100 hours of metaphysical education right there to roll through. I would love it if you would add yourself to my mailing list as well, because in addition to the cooperative presentations, both Ginny and I are regrooving our presentation, because there's been a change in our structural world for our businesses, and we're finding our new way, as is everyone. So we'd like to present that, and I'll mention that both of us are available. We do individual and couple work, either by phone or by Zoom. We're both available for that. So if you like how we think, or if you like the feel of us, because You guys are a sentient group. Ginny brings the clairvoyant. I bring the clairsentient. But Christopher brings Tinder. But if you like the work that we've got, we'd love to have you join with us. He's listed our websites down there. So please join in and go in and check out the radio shows up on my website. Thank you all so very much for being here. From my heart, you have my love. Travel within it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks everyone.
For your participation.
One person's medicine is another person's poison, and there's a lot to learn from Tinder. A lot.
To be discussed in Scorpio season. I imagine we're going to be going there, and
Perfect.
maybe the election, little.
Yeah, who cares about the election? It's Tinder.
Well, we can talk about sex. I mean, come on.
Little extra time for some post-election wrap-up, probably, given that it's 4 days afterwards, 3 days. With the Mercury retrograde thing, we're quite likely to still have that undecided up through the mid-late November, actually. So
love you all. We're timed out. Bye.